right, let's talk circles. I love circles. They're so fun and they're pretty easy. We are on lesson 9.2. We are working with perfect circles. Our essential question is, can you understand the relationship between the center and the radius of a circle and the equation of a circle? So an equation of a circle looks like this. We have x minus h, quantity squared, plus y minus k, quantity squared, equals r squared. And the circle has a center of hk and the radius is r. So let's see if we could get through some of these questions. They're not too bad. It says, find an equation of a circle with the center at 3, -4, and a radius of 6. So remember, my circle has a center of hk. Now notice there's a negative h and a negative k, and the radius is squared. So when I write this out, I have to write it as x minus 3, quantity squared, plus y plus 4, quantity squared, is equal to 36. Not so bad for the first one. For the second one, remember I told you that one time that completing the square is always going to come into play? So they're telling us to graph this circle, but in order to graph this circle, I first have to put it into what we call the circle form. So we want it to look like the form above right here. In order to do that, I'm going to put the x's together, x squared plus 8x, and I have to complete this square because notice I need it to be a perfect square. And then I'm going to put the y's together, y squared minus 2y, and I have to complete that square. And then I have to bring this 22 over. But remember, I completed the square twice, so what I add to one side, I also have to add to the other. So let's go ahead and complete this square. Half of 8 is 4. 4 squared is 16. Half of -2 is -1. -1 squared is 1. So this would become x plus 4, quantity squared, plus y minus 1, quantity squared. But it looks like we have a problem because -22 plus 16 plus 1, I believe that gives us a -5. Can a radius have a negative number? So no. The radius cannot have a negative number, so this one actually has no solution or no graph. Well, that was a great question because it did teach us how to complete the square. But let's go ahead and I'm going to take this orange one and show you how to graph it. Okay, so the orange equation said x minus 3 quantity squared plus y plus 4 quantity squared equals 36. So in order to graph this, we do have to find the center and the radius. Now in this question, they actually gave us the center. They told us that the center was 3. So remember, we're taking the opposite out, so it would be 3 and -4. So I know at 3, -4, I would put my dot for the center. Now, since the radius squared is 36, I know the radius is 6, which means from this point, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the left. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the top. Now, I'm not an awesome artist, so you can laugh with me, not at me, at my circle. That's probably going to look like an egg. I probably should just highlight it. Maybe that would look better. Nope, not much better. All right, well, that's how you graph a circle. All right, let's look at this next question. It says, the center of a circle of radius 5 lies in the first quadrant. Well, I know that is going to be here in the first quadrant. Find an equation of a circle if it is tangent to the x-axis at 1, 0. So at 1, 0, it's going to be tangent. We know that it has a radius of 5, but we have to know how to do this. We know it's in the first quadrant. I can also start by setting up my equation because I know that I'm going to have x squared and y squared, and they told me that my radius was 5, which means that 25, the radius squared, will be there. Now, because the center of the circle lies on the line x equals 1, and it must be 5 units from 1, 0, which I just graphed right there, we know that the center then has to be at 1, 5. So it did just tell us that the center is in quadrant 1, which helps us out. And I know that since this center is at 1, 5, and we know that the radius is 5, I can do x minus 1 quantity squared plus y minus 5 quantity squared equals 25. All right, I skipped number 3 because I didn't have a lot of room to show it. So now I'm going to write it up here. X squared, this is example 3, I skipped down to number 4. X squared plus y squared minus 6x plus 2y plus 6 equals 0. And they want us to find the center and the radius, which from there, of course, we can graph. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our x's together. And remember, we have to complete the square because we want this to be a perfect square. I also need to put my y's together. And we can complete the square there because we want that to be a perfect square. I want to get the negative 6 over here, but remember I completed 2 squares. So let's complete the square. Half of 6 is 9, or 3. 3 squared is 9. What I add to one side, I add to the other. Half of 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. What I add to one side, I add to the other. So I know that this is going to be x minus 3 quantity squared plus y plus 1 quantity squared. And negative 6 plus 10 is going to give me a positive 4. So my center, we're going to take the opposite, 3, opposite, negative 1, and the square root of 4, which is 2. So the center is at 3, negative 1, and the radius is at 2.